Welcome back to our series of episodes devoted to making your ideas real. Now, if you want some more inspo on why this is so important or want to understand how this is divinely connected to why you're on this planet in this moment, listen to the past 2 episodes where I've really dug into this conversation. Because today we are talking about making ideas real that attract abundance, that attract money. Yes, we are going to talk about money. Now, for my creatives out there, we can get really weird around money because we love what we do, and oftentimes we can get all itchy and sticky, and all of our wicked stepsisters come into the room to say, you're not doing it right, you're not doing it wrong. Hello, imposter syndrome, anybody? Anyone ever told you to act as if anyone ever told you to fake it till you make it, then today's episode is going to hold a ton of value for you. Because Gianna Rapp is an actress who is starting her own coaching business, and she helps actors really be in their authentic space when it comes to understanding technique and how to make it fit them perfectly. Now, you can imagine she brings a lot of integrity to this, and so all the creepy, crawly critics are coming out to rise up to say, you're not good enough, how dare you say this to people out loud, how are you going to put that messaging into the world? And so in this episode, we talk about the sacredness and the great care and consciousness you want to bring to starting a business like this. So if you've ever wanted to tap into one of your talents and make a buck from doing it, or you know you've got some gifts to offer the world where you can make some money, then this episode is going to teach you how to start that process. Now, one of the bonus parts of this episode, I think, is we even get into social media messaging where we claim this obstacle and own it as a way to attract more of her ideal audience. Remember, I've been saying this like a broken record this month, the answer to cracking the code on staying committed to your big idea is, who is this for? So Gianna and I get into that right away in this episode. Let's get to it. So Gianna, thank you so much for being on today's podcast. I appreciate you bringing this to talk about the sensitive, interesting new thing you're doing. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
For sure. So I want to make sure that I create a really safe space for you. And so that, you know, this is a podcast and we're recording for the podcast, but also this is a coaching. So we do not need to, listeners, beware. We do not need to entertain today. This is not about us making people laugh or chuckle, although I'm sure that happened along the way. The goal here is to really pull back the curtain and give them a front row seat at being in a coaching, and hopefully, and I'm sure this undoubtedly will happen, is they're going to get a lot of takeaways from the journey that you've had, because if you're a creative person, you're part of anyone's inherent journey is putting themselves out there. And so part of what you're creating, we'll get at that in a second, is about putting yourself out there in a way that feels authentic to you and doesn't feel slimy or gross or all that. And then also I want to just be mindful that it's okay if some of the moments here are quiet, or, you know, there's a silence even because you're thinking, because this is meant to truly be a coaching, not meant to be a, you know, it's not, we're not creating this we're not meant this to be a podcast episode. Let's just say it that way. That said, those of you who are listening, buckle in, because I know Gianna Rapp very well. And she is not afraid to be honest. That's my experience so far. I hope that felt like a little bit of a challenge there, Gianna. So I want to make sure we're truly making this honest. So will you share with the listeners today, just to get them kind of up to speed as we move in and they can follow along, what it is you're hatching? What's this big idea you've been moving with? And I know it's already in motion, so I know it's not just, it's not still an egg. It's the baby chickling is out. It's known. We know this thing's here. So can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So some of this started from me graduating from college, and I was in DC for a bit, and then I moved back to New York City, and I really had no idea how to make money doing something I really like to do that wasn't acting. And so I did catering, which was a lot of fun. I still am doing catering. You get great stories from it. There's no shame in that. But it got to a point where I wanted something that would fulfill me just as much as acting, and that would light the sparkly, tingling feeling that I get when I'm acting with other actors. Yeah. And so I started having friends come to me for audition help, for self-tape help, for just like business questions about actors' access and how to do this and how to do that. And eventually people are like, you're really good at this and you have a lot of knowledge about it. And I was like, well, I've spent a lot of money on acting classes. Like half of my resume now is just training. And I was like, well, maybe I should make some of this back in some way. And so I started to put myself out there, and I made Gianna Rapp Studios, which really was just the first name that came to me very quickly. I was like, sure, I'll put studios at the end of my name, see how that is.
And you didn't throw
And
up, and so
so,
that worked.
and it worked. And
Yeah.
people were like, okay, that sounds professional. I'll trust you with my auditions and self tapes, which honestly, um, I have, I was shocked actually at how many people were coming to me asking for help with their auditions, and investing in me in that way. And so it made me also want to be a better coach, a better actor for people that were coming to me asking for help. Because I think there's a lot of vulnerability in that, in asking someone else that you might not know. There's a lot of people that got in touch with me, that were taking agent goals or another program. And I just was like a headshot or a face. And they were like, I'm going to go in with this person.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really rewarding for
Yeah.
me
Good.
in a lot of
Good.
ways.
Awesome. And so you've got this, is it okay to call it fledgling or baby business kind of that's happening? Or maybe does it feel
Baby,
baby? Yeah, yeah,
baby,
baby business,
baby.
right? That is right now this fledgling business has self-tape coaching, audition coaching is like its most bread and butter, and then a little bit of audition or business coaching that happens from time to time or questions that come up about that. Is that kind of the offerings that we are talking about?
Yes, at the
Right.
moment, that is the offerings. And I think part of me, I've played around with a lot of other ideas, also playing with maybe doing in person classes. And a lot of it is inspired by a lot of performance anxiety that I had in high school and college. And so I had a very, very hard time not letting my anxiety and nerves get in the way. And so some of why I wanted to create a studio is to really create a safe environment for actors to play
Mm.
and to not like try to be good in any
Mm.
sort of way. Because I think when we put in, and that happens a lot with self tapes and auditioning,
Yeah.
is that we feel like we need to put a product out. And so I think something that really helps us as actors in self tapes and auditioning is figuring out who we are as a person and like going through why am I anxious in this moment. And I was in a lot of environments where they were competitive, and it was really hard to kind of like mess up, like be allowed to like
Yeah. Yeah.
play and make mistakes. And so that was another thing that really inspired me to start coaching. So right now it is self tapes and auditioning, but something that I'm thinking about is some sort of group class that like also talks about this aspect of acting.
Great. Great. And so what I hear you saying is I, in my past training as an actor, there were some painful experiences. I was in rooms
Mm-hmm.
where I didn't feel like I could get up. I was dreading when it was like my turn to get up and do my scene because it was about perfection. It
Mm-hmm.
was about being good. And part of why I am, I would say, gifted with helping actors is because I'm creating a space where that's not going to be part of our conversation. And so the mark or the promise or the mission of the studio we're creating, of the Gianna Rapp Studios you're creating, is this will be a space where you don't have to be perfect to show up. You can show up as is. Some version of your presence is enough to get started. We don't have to have all the answers right away. Does that sound like the vibe of what you want to create?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so I think what I'm hearing right away is who this is for. Like I'm getting who is this studio for? So the person who's like, I want someone to tell me exactly how to do it and how to hit the mark and blah, 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 blah. That's not your student. Your student is someone who's ready to say, I don't have to have it right. I'm open to suggestion. I want to be free from maybe some of the
Mm-hmm.
trauma of my teacher's past, even could be a way to, right? Not that everyone has to have traumatic teachers to want this. I want to make sure you could have had great teachers and you still want to have a space like this, right? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Is there anything missing that, and just in terms of like describing the, for lack of a better word, the ideal actor who comes to your studio, is there anything missing from this that you think I'm not saying right now?
I would say um, someone who's ready to collaborate so that it isn't, because I know there's been so many times when I was just like, tell me what to do, tell me what to do, like tell me how to I can be the best actor. And then I learned I can't remember who said this to me. I think it might have been in a casting director workshop, but that during the pandemic with our self-tapes, we've become our director, we've become our script person, we've become the actor, we've become all of these different people that make up movies and TV shows. And so looking at it as like, I get to create my own little movie today. And I think that someone who is interested in like maybe not doing everything correctly, because I think there is an opening now with self tapes and doing things at home where we have a little bit more creative freedom to do more of what we want to do as actors and what feels fulfilling to us. And I think also someone that's very interested in moving their body and voice. I do incorporate like Alexander technique.
Great.
I do.
I'm a huge fan of Alexander technique. So this is like, yes, please. Okay.
I love it, and that's something that also really helps with anxiety and becoming grounded is getting into your body.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's so great. So anyone who's listening right now who's an actor is already like probably like identified themselves as, yes, I am your student, or no, I am not, which is a great thing because you want the person to be able to understand themselves. I can't imagine not wanting to be in an environment like the one you just described, but that's for my calling specifically in terms of like the kind of vibes I want to have. But I think that you're already creating a mark. So someone could say, yes, that's for me. No, that's not for me. But what I also want to make sure, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, is this isn't an environment where it's just about like rolling around on the floor in our black clothes and feeling good about ourselves. It's also work that we know will resonate on a self-tape and will be seen in the world and say, this person is a viable option for this role. So that's the piece that I think we want to not miss in the story of what we're trying to put into the world about your messaging. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And like I have done the rolling around on the floor in college, and like there's definitely it does, I actually think it does help actors.
Totally. Yes.
But then it's like using that freedom, that sense of emotional and physical freedom, and then figuring out how to do that when you're sitting in front of a camera.
Right.
And I think that's the trick right there.
Great. So what I'm hearing, so I want everybody to hear, so as we're imagining your big thing, so the coaching today is really about how do we get more clients, have your business make some money, because you said I'm assuming one day we'd love to like even though we're having a great time catering, we'd like to get rid of that because this creates more of the cycle of feeling resonant that you're doing work that makes an impact is what I'm hearing you say. So, right. So what we're doing, let's get into creating this into being a business that is lucrative and more people walking through the door or logging onto the Zoom room, right, to make it happen, right? So we kind of have an idea of who this person is. So share with me a little bit, like give us the lay of the land of how you've marketed this so far. Right now I'm doing my data collection to talk about where I think we're going, because just so that we're clear, what I'm hearing is I would like to make money as an acting coach enough so that I can support my life, because I know the reality of the business is I will work as an actor from time to time and hopefully there'll be great money coming in from that. But this will be the reliable second hand, my left hand, and while my right hand's doing this, so that I can feel free in my acting career, because what we don't want is the worst thing we could do is make a business that overwhelms your acting career, right? So that's a huge part of what I want to create a container for us creating that. And then the other part is, and I want this to serve these people in a beautiful way, and to feel like they're really booking and they're feeling like they're good about their acting and they're happy people walking out the door when they finish their coaching with me or whatever it is, right? So these are the two things we're balancing. So I don't want to let go. Anyone who's listening who's got more than one passion, which is most of my audiences, right, we want to create a business that supports the unfolding of both. So tell me a little bit about, just so far, the marketing messaging that's gone out into the world.
So this is something that I really have no idea.
Great.
I don't know lots about. I'm going to be
Great.
really honest. This has been maybe the biggest struggle that I've faced. I would say that I've used Instagram. I have my website. I have posted on different Facebook groups for actors, word of mouth. And then I would do email blasts through MailChimp with a very kind of select group of people. And something that I was thinking about was maybe reaching out to past teachers or coaches or programs where some like pre-college programs that I did, and maybe those students, they're now graduating college and
Yeah,
might need
great.
coaches afterwards. Um, but I would say this is like an area that is very new to me. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
definitely struggling a bit with, to be honest.
So great. So this is helpful. I just want to make sure that you hear this back for me and listeners hear this is taking up space on Instagram is not a small ask. Saying like I have a real studio is actually quite a big thing to do, and so I want to just applaud you and acknowledge like that could take someone a year to get comfortable with.
It
So
was
yeah,
scary. I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie. I was
yeah,
very scared the
yeah.
first time I
I'm sure all
posted
the
it.
"Who do I think I am" voices were really trying to scream in the background at that moment. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
sure,
Oh
right, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then I also sending an email to a bunch of people can also be scary, and like asking for referrals make so you've obviously done some of the personal work to be able to at least say it without throwing up, right? Or at least live with the idea that you've already said it, right? So that's the deep work is it's already percolating in that piece of it. So I would love to add some structure and some systems around. I think that's probably what might be helpful. But before I start run at the mouth over here about what I think we should do, if you were to say, Brian, what I want coaching most on
Mm.
in the world of this business, right? It might even be the deep work that you want some support with. It might not actually be this marketing piece. So this kind of just gives our listeners and me the lay of the land of where things are. And wait, just one more lay of the land question. About how many clients are you seeing a week, would you say? Or a month?
So it really depends month to month. There was a time during the summer where I had maybe like a good 6 people coming in.
Wow, great.
Um, but I would say now it's a little bit closer to like 2 to 3. And so I know I haven't been putting it out there as much as I think I should be or could be. And so I know it's one of those things where it's like part of it, like nothing is going to happen unless I do something.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to put a little vibes out for you to get some back. I just want to also make sure you hear this from me. Just this is like expert moment for you that I want to share is as someone who works with actors, there are two seasons when things can tend to get quiet. One is June and July, so it's surprising to me that you had a busy summer. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Right, and then the other. So part of that is because it comes as a surprise to me every single year, and I have to remember, Brian, things are gonna be a little quieter these months, and it's totally fine. Like this is when you take a vacation, chill out. Like just FYI, and then end of end of December, early January, when we're trying to get back into things, because your business is coaching for auditions, and we both know that the audition numbers go down a little bit because everybody goes a little on vacation, you're going to see that lull there. So I just want to also just normalize those two seasons for yourself so that you can like relate to them without I should be as busy as I was in February. I should be as busy as I was in September relationship. So just kind of that piece of it.
That's very helpful.
Oh,
Thank
great,
you.
great. So did you like seeing about 6 people a week? Was that a vibe you liked? Would you like to have it be more? If you were to say that my perfect week is having this many sessions, I'd still feel buoyant and ebullient as an actor in my own career. What would that number be?
Honestly, I feel like I could do like 20 hours a week of coaching and not feel overwhelmed
Great,
by it, like
great,
15 to 20 hours a week.
great,
I think
great,
that that would be like a nice, yeah.
great. Okay, so let me come back to my question. That's all cool, good. I want to like, great. We had our technical conversation. Wipe that away for a second and just be Gianna Rapp in this moment. And if you were to say, here's where I went coaching on around this. Again, it could be emotional sensitivity stuff. It might not be structure-y kind of thing. What comes up for you? And just take a minute to see while we're here together, where we're gathered. And know that whatever we focus on will be the right thing.
Hmm. I think, okay. I
Uh-oh,
think
pissed you off.
honestly, one
Go.
of the,
You're like, oh shit. I saw the oh shit face. Was that what that was?
I was like, damn. I was like, I guess I'll have to be vulnerable today. That's fine. It's okay. I had therapy this morning, so
Great.
we're good.
You're primed.
Um,
Okay.
primed, exactly. I would say my one of the biggest things holding me back from really making any sort of decision on a job that is not acting
Mm-hmm.
is my feelings around doing something that's not acting. I
Okay.
think for so long, um, I did so many jobs that felt really like I did not want to commit to anything. Like I didn't
Mm.
want to commit to a 9 to 5 job. I didn't even want to commit to a temp job that was like 3 to 4 months long because I was so afraid of my energy going to something else. And so then I would end up having like babysitting, catering, coaching. I would have like 4 or 5 really, really part-time jobs, and it would create a lot of stress around money. And
Mhm.
then also, I was splitting my energy between 5 things instead of 2 things. So it really ended up just being more of an energy suck than anything else. But I created this, and still, it's still in there a little bit, but I feel like I've done a lot of work around is that I'm not less of an actor for doing something when I'm not doing something else when I'm not acting.
Yeah, say that again.
Um,
Say that again for the people in the background.
oh, what did I just say? That I am not less of an actor when I am doing something else.
Yeah.
And that I think has been a tricky feeling, a tricky, especially because I mean, that's something that's really incredible about being in New York City is that I would work shifts with other actors who are caterers, and they would have 9 shifts in a row. And I was like, I don't know how you guys, I was like, I'm usually exhausted by that amount of time. But there is this commitment to acting that I think I love about actors, and what ultimately is why I want to do coaching as well, because I get to be in the room with people and creating something. And so I know that this is the path that I want to go on, but I think I am the person that sometimes gets in my way of putting myself out there because I'm like, oh, will people not think I'm good enough as an actor? Because there's that whole saying which drives me crazy, whereas the people that, which is dumb.
Yeah. It's
It's
like
like
those who
so
can't do
stupid. I'd
teach or
always
some, yeah, those who can't do teach, I think is what it is, or something like
It's
that.
not true. Like
Yeah.
literally
No.
the people that teach are like better at the
Yeah.
thing that is at and it just drives me crazy. But it's like stuff like that is put into our heads at such a young age, and then it's like
Sticks.
it's not true, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
sticks.
it sticks.
Exactly.
So let me parse a little bit of what you said to see if this sounds right. It sounds like coaching is still the thing that you want to do. But at the
Yes.
very beginning of what you shared with me, it was, I I want to be okay doing something that is not acting. And so I want to make clear when you're saying like coaching is not acting. That we are we on the same page when we're saying that coaching? We know that it's
Yes.
adjacent, it's in the neighborhood, you're learning more as an actor, all the good things are happening, but it isn't acting. And so you're saying I like to feel free as a coach
Mm-hmm.
to go whole hog into coaching and know that it's not detrimental to my acting career, both perceived and internally.
Exactly.
Right, right. So what's if we could name the lie you tell yourself? If you were like rolling on all cylinders as a coach, what's the lie that you're telling yourself? What's the lie that comes up that could be like, this is what this is the belief that comes up when I think of myself as being a successful coach?
A lie that I would tell myself.
Yeah. I mean, right now it may feel truth, but like the thing that we're saying right now,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
know we're being
yeah.
scientists about this. We know here's the lie that I'd start to
All
believe.
the negative self-talk that comes up. I would say not like either being like talented enough to be an actor or like um not being like courageous enough maybe to like put myself out there and feeling safer behind the scenes. But like I'm saying all this right now, I'm like none of
You
this
don't
is
believe it.
true,
Yeah.
but I don't believe it, but there's moments when you're like, oh God, like I'm gonna make this decision. And then all those little voice demons come in your brain, and it's just like, stop, that's not true. Stop, that's not true. Stop, that's not true. But that is definitely, I think, that's part of this career, I think, is a lot of the mentality that comes with it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
don't know
that's
if I answered
wearing,
your
and that can be
question.
super. That can be, yeah, 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 yeah. It takes stamina to have that conversation with those demons every single day, and it takes stamina in a way that can pull away from oh my gosh, I have an audition tomorrow, but I have a coaching tomorrow, so I'm a jerk for canceling on my coaching, or I have to, like, that is a dance that is going to have to become normalized inside of this, right? So if we're going to work on this, so what I hear you saying is, you know what, Brian, I think what I want to work on is my relationship with myself as a coach and an actor. Is that what you're kind of saying today? That would help me feel the most free. You're like, I don't want to,
I
but I
think
feel like I
so.
have to. Is what I hear you say. I have to
I was
face
like,
the,
that's the scariest thing
yeah,
to go
yeah,
into. But I mean, like, because yes, I mean, there are a lot of things marketing wise that I think I don't know what I'm doing, but I think it ties to, I think that
yes,
this is
yeah.
where it's coming from. I think I would know a little bit more how to market myself if this wasn't what I was fighting
Yes. Yeah. And so what I want to say is, like, as coaching number one in this conversation, like, this feels like the right coaching number two. That feels like coaching number two is, or three is like, let's get in clear on the marketing or the funnel or blah, 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 blah. That can be but right now let's get really clear on who I want to be in my life so that I can do both of these things and feel free to go wholeheartedly into both of them. So let's go over to the acting side for a second.
with.
Okay. And smile comes across your face if you're watching this on YouTube. Uh, if you were able to wave a magic wand and you could say, this is the impact that I'd like my acting to have when someone sees it, for the shift I'd like to have in them, what comes up for you?
I think it would be for someone to maybe feel less alone or to feel heard in some way. Um, I think what's so powerful about acting is that it allows the audience to have an experience together, but then also an experience on their own. And I know there's been so many times where I've seen a performance that has made me feel, oh, like, less, um, what's the word? Less crazy. It's not the most articulate word to use, but there's this, like, oh wow, I've had an experience like that and I feel less alone in this moment, or I feel inspired by this character's journey. And I think there's just this closeness that at least I have when I watch shows and scenes that I really connect with. It's like you almost feel like they're your friends in some way and you really care about them. And it creates, I think, a closeness that we have with ourselves, the people around us that we're sharing, watching whether that's live theater, a TV show. And so, yeah, I really do agree with a lot of actors when they talk about it being a service. I really do think acting is a way of helping this world digest what's going on.
Great.
Um, and that could be in like a silly sitcom. That could
Totally.
be
Yeah.
in, like, it doesn't have to be the most dramatic thing ever, but I think that there is an escape that happens where we get to be in someone else's shoes. But I think at the end of the day, we also learn a lot about ourselves. And I think that's really cool. I think
Yeah.
that's what honestly makes me like the most excited about doing acting in the
Yeah.
first place.
I love that, John. I love what you said, because when you said that, what I'm hearing back is, yes, we get to go into someone else's shoes, but what I think it does is it returns our audience and it returns us to our own shoes a little changed. It returns us to our own shoes a little differently approaching the world. And one thing that you said so beautifully about television shows, we had Mikey Garver, who's an experiential theater director, and she talked about TV shows are serialized relationships we have with people in a show. And we do feel like they're part of our family and they do come into our house. And when Breaking Bad ended, I was like, my family's gone. Like, how can this be? You can't, spoiler alert.
It hurts.
Yeah,
like,
you can't die.
Feel it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so, because you're the storyteller, I've welcomed in my house for hours and hours and hours. So I love the way you said it. One of the things I want to come back to is this feeling of not being alone and being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to come back over to your acting studio, which is things don't have to be perfect. I have to get it right. And who you are is enough. Can you kind of make a bridge here for us? Do you see the relationship? Yeah, she's laughing.
Oh boy. I think about my fears and my stuff coming up. I think being seen in general is terrifying, which is really funny because I want to be an actor, which is just like
Yes.
But I think that they're I I could be getting this is when my therapist would help me out because I'm
I'm going to let you sit
struggling.
there and
No, but
stew because you're doing great. I like to live in the pause and in the silence. So go ahead.
I would say there's a fear of in both coaching and acting of assertively putting myself out there as in this is what I am doing, like even calling myself an actor or even talking about acting in this way that I just did felt incredibly vulnerable. And so I think there might be a belief in there somewhere still that I
Hmm.
got when I was a kid that like acting isn't for me or that acting is, I don't
For
know,
other
so
people.
it's
Yeah.
like once
Before
again,
we go there
you
though, I want to
know,
come back. I want to bridge something different though. That you answered a different question for me. I want to bring you back to this question. Can you bridge the impact you want to have as an actor to the impact you want to have as a coach?
yes. I would love to help actors find a way to bring their authentic selves to the character that they're playing. And so the performances that we see that make us feel like, oh, this is a family member, or this is a close friend, or this is someone that like I really care about their journey. I think is when we ourselves are allowing to be our messiest, grounded, genuine, weird selves, but it's scary to actually let people see that because we're like, oh no, is someone not going to like me? Is this going to, am I going to get rejected? All this stuff comes up. And so I think I would love to help actors find those moments of being their most authentic selves in auditioning, which doesn't always feel super authentic. It feels, especially if if you have like a few lines, we're taught to just like throw them away, which I think there's a lot to that, but it's also finding who I am inside while I am doing, can I pass the salt or
Right.
something,
Right.
like I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
So what I'm hearing back is I want actors to be able to find their mess and embrace their mess. And if sometimes the work doesn't call for that, still that they're the messy human inside, even if if the scene is not a scene where the mess is necessarily the headline of the moment. They're like, they also do have a night that day
absolutely.
they have to go have a fight with their mom on the phone. They just got off like that. Their life is full. There's a full expression of this human being, right? And
Exactly.
what I hear you saying around your own acting career is I want to have the freedom to be in this mess, in this strive while I'm coaching, while I'm building this coaching career
Hmm.
business. So what comes to me now, and I wonder if you can try this on for a minute, try this perspective on.
Hmm.
I am allowed to be messy in the creation of my studio.
Mm.
What comes up when I say that? Messy might not be the right word. Let's use a different word. So maybe it's like I'm allowed to not be perfect might be better, or like I'm allowed to
I like
try. Yeah.
messy.
Yeah, you do. Great. Tell me what comes
I
up.
like messy. I think there was almost like a heavy blanket. What are those things called? That just
The
felt like
weighted
it was kind of
blanket.
lifted
Yeah.
off. A weighted blanket.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the coaching is like, I get very weird about like the copywriting I'm putting out too, where I'm like, oh gosh, like is this gonna sound really stupid? Or like, am I like making it like, does this what I'm offering sound like it's coming across the way I wanted to?
So what you think about is having a studio that is messy. What comes up for you when you think that?
Yes. I think that would allow me to put myself out there more because I don't have to worry on it being perfect. And I think that's what happens with the copywriting is I'm like, okay, this post has to be perfect. Like this writing has to be exactly what I'm offering or like, but really like everyone's just scrolling really quickly. No one's thinking about it as much as I am thinking about it. And so I think allowing myself also to fail within the coaching studio, like
Yes.
sending something out and it just not working and like moving on with my life, just being
Yeah.
like, that doesn't have like not taking things personally, I think would is what being messier also, I feel
Yeah.
like can mean.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I want to
Yeah.
just kind of narrow for everyone. So when we're talking, so where I think we're arriving at in terms of like an action step or where to go next is you're not going to be messy when you're coaching. I mean, you might bring some mess in because you want to try a new modality or but what this is going to be, you're not going to be like, hey, our coaching starts at 3, I'll see at 3:45. Like, that's not the mess. Right? That's not the mess you're talking, right? So they're not going to be like suddenly a poor deliverer of coaching, but like some mess in the like, hey, I'm trying, Friday I've got 4 spots on my list. Anybody want to take one of them on Instagram? I'm like not getting it perfect, right? And I'm not saying the perfect thing. And what if the metric for you to measure yourself by wasn't, let's say, either number of clients, but what's the mess metric, or what's the success metric we could use that would newly become, I'm making steps in this direction. I'm giving someone space to see me without being perfect. What could be a metric we would use? Would it be like, what comes up for you before I spitball here with you?
I would say I do like the messiness. I think I like the just like the amount, and I don't know what this word would be, but
Yeah.
just like being more like active, being more aggressive in a, not in
Yeah.
like a mean way,
We know what
but
your
just
aggressive
more
means. Yeah. Yeah.
having more of a, I'm going to put this out here. It would be great if it worked. If it doesn't, I'm going to do it again. And having that kind of momentum.
Great. So
So I
here's
don't
what,
know if
yeah,
that
yeah.
is like,
I have a bunch of ideas.
yeah,
Can I give you some ideas? So I love what you're saying. So aggressive,
please,
I think it's
please.
numbers. I think it's around numbers. What if you made a metric where it's like, my goal, I must post, I must is a strong word, but we're using it intentionally because we're trying to stretch here. So the must is intentional, right? I must post 4 times a week. Or
I
I
love it.
must post 3 times. What number feels enough stretchy for you that would actually feel like you're stretching, but isn't like going to never get done because it's too big? What's a good number there? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 7? Is it 24? I imagine it's not 24, but like, yeah.
I would say 4 or 5.
Got it.
I feel like 3 would be playing it safe for me.
Got it. So 4 is it, and 5 is a wow. 4 is a yes, hell yes, I did it, and 5 is a wow, I went overboard. Can we do that?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
for it to
I love
qualify,
that.
great. So I want everyone to just tap into something that I want everyone to notice this. I'm going to just narrate my coaching here for 1 second for everyone, which is you want to pick the goal that feels stretchy but still will happen, so that you can start that cycle of I'm being who I say I want to be, but it still was a little bit of a stretch. So it's a hell yes if you got 4. It's not like a failure you didn't get 5, but if you get 5, it's like, oh, holy shit, I went overboard. Like, it's like, this is icing. It isn't you're not secretly trying to make yourself do 5. The 5 is total bonus. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right. And when you're doing this, John, I want to check, is there anything for it to truly count as a post? Is there anything that has to be inside those posts? There might not be. I'm just checking for you to check in. Like, does there have to be, like, for it to really count as one of those 4 posts, I have to have a call to action of some kind in the caption, or I don't, or one of them has to have a call to action. Because one of them could just be, have you worked on your acting career today? It could be like a thoughtful question. It doesn't even have to be a call to action. So for you to feel it, I want to know, for you to feel like those 4 posts meant something, or they get to be crossed off as a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4. Is there anything that must be there, or is it pretty easy?
I think a call to action would be smart, because I think that's the final of like actually putting myself out there, something that is like, here is the link to where you can click to find all of the information. I think honestly for me, going into more depth about what I am offering and what my studio even is, I think I've been very vague in that way. And so I think putting more time into the posts, because I think something I do is like, I'm like, okay, like I'll write a few words and like I did it. And so I think I actually feel like putting more thought into it, because it is going to feel more vulnerable, I think, for me. But I think that would be the line of like actually taking some time to write something that isn't just catchy or here's this link, but to actually articulate what I am offering. That's
Great.
not just like self-tape coaching.
Right. So maybe there's a dual kind of goal here, which is like, I put 4 things out and I spent 2 hours on those things, or this amount of time that I know that will be, I've achieved it. And I just want to advocate. So this might be more for coaching 2, 3, 4 down the line, but I want to just plant a seed here around where you're going with this, because I do think of those 4 posts, one of them could just be get to know me posts. I started my studio because what you said to me today. I had teachers in the past that were really well-intentioned, but I had the vibe that I picked up in the room was I had to get it right. And because I kept picking up that vibe, I wasn't showing up the way that I wanted to show up into that work. And not till I shook that off years later, having done work, been in multiple studios where I put in a ton of money, and I got, oh, wait, this is about play. This is about my natural instincts. This is about presence. And then I realized, oh, that's the kind of studio that I want. That's the kind of space that I want to create for an actor. So if you're the actor out there, whether you had a traumatic teacher or not, like if you're the kind of actor who wants to have freedom in your work, then a coaching with me is probably a good place to start. Could be a good place to start. I put the link in my bio if you want to set up a coaching with me, so we can try it. We can try it for the first time, or when you want to set up a coaching. So maybe there's like one of that did have a sneaky little call to action,
I love
but
that.
it could have not have one. It could have not had one, right? It could have just ended like. So now a little bit more about GRS, Gianna Rapp Studios. Right.
I love
that's a little bit more right. So I would think of allowing one of them to be get to know me, which may feel vulnerable, but remember, this is a one-on-one relationship that I need to have with you in a room, whether it's a Zoom room or real life room, where I'm afraid, I'm questioning whether or not I should be an actor. I'm scared of the money that I'm spending on you. I don't know if I'm right for the scene. They want to cast an older actor. They say it's blonde. I have dark hair. I'm coming with all my stuff to you. So I need to feel safety. So even, you mentioned your therapist a few times, but I'm sure in the beginning, creating safety with that person came a little bit over time. So you're trying to give the safety before they've even booked in some way. So they can identify, I could sit across from that person and feel like I could be bad. Like it could be wrong.
Absolutely.
Right. Does that make sense?
I think also, it does. I think I love the about me. I also, something that I was playing with was actually like putting video content of me talking, which scares me so much. But I think that is also how it will help with my personality, what I'm like, if that is a good fit for someone. So it's not just words, but that really scares me. But that is something that
messy. But Gianna, here's your freedom. Yeah. So Gianna, the permission slip here is it messy or not? So I would say on a scale of 1 to 4, before you tape, what's the messiest version of this, and what scale do I want to be? 1 being the least messy. I've planned it out. I've got bullet points. I want to say this, this, and this. 4 being, I have a little bit of an idea of what I want to say. I want to talk about vulnerability and self-tapes. Great. This is going to be a super messy one. So there's a permission slip. I'm aiming for a 4, the most messy I can be, so I'm okay where it doesn't have to land. So maybe this is more like a scaling situation as opposed to even time with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
Because what I don't want to do is create a bunch of metrics that you're tracking for no good reason, but I want you to have the freedom of like, I've got 4 posts I'm going to do. This is a 1. This is a 1 on the scale. This is a clear call to action. I'm going to be really clear in what I'm saying. This feels a little bit like a 2. Okay, we're going to go forward with a 2. What does a 2 feel like? So does that rating scale kind of make sense to you?
Yes, because I think it would also give me permission to like just like talk, and not to also, because I think that's also something where it's like you get into your head where you're like, everything has to sound perfect. I have to sound smart 24/7. And it's like, that's just not going to happen. So I think the messiness would be really helpful. I mean, like even with this podcast today, I was super nervous that I didn't have anything to plan. Like there's nothing I had to do but show up. And that was absolutely terrifying to me, because I was like, what do you mean I don't have homework so that I could make a little script for myself to make sure that I sound this way?
Wait, yes,
and
Gianna,
so
wait, you're the only person who wrote me email said, wait, what should I have prepared before I come? And I was like, oh, I love her so much and nothing. And I knew I was like, make her feel as safe as you can. But I really appreciate your honesty here. And Gianna, this is what you are being right now is what you want your people to see. Am I right? Yeah. As much as you don't want them to see it, you also, it's like, I do and I don't all at the same time, right? Like this is why we all love Fleabag, right? The show. We love it because it is like, I am unabashedly showing you I'm not always a good person or put together person.
Yeah, right? I'm sure not. But I think that the more, I don't know, I think I think that's something that I would really like to work on this year
Great.
is putting myself out there on social media in a way that doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And Gianna, I'll just add this to this conversation because everyone listening is like, yeah, but I don't want to go to some acting coach who's just like a freaking whack job and I can't even like they're super like that. I want to make sure we're talking about messy in the way that here's what my coach taught me this and it's been something that has given me tremendous freedom and permission. People respond to your striving, not to your getting it right. I'll say that again. People respond to your striving, not to your getting it right. So people respond more to you saying, I started my studio exactly 6 months ago. Since then, 24 students have come through my self-tape coaching. My goal has always been for them to feel more empowered and free in their work. That's what this studio is all about. That includes me, which means I'm going to be coming on here trying to say things that hopefully will inspire you, lift you up, or just make you chuckle. But it's not always going to be perfect because it's my belief that perfection does not exist in acting. So I'm going to try to walk my walk. This is vulnerable as hell, scary as hell. If you've got something to say in the comments, please make sure it's positive because that's about all I have the room for right now. Thank you. Like some, right? Like some version of which there was no call to action in that, right? It was just saying like, be your imperfect self, bring your imperfect self to the screen, right? Like there's your online course that we'll create together one day, by the way. So
I love it.
Right. So to kind of round us out, to wrap us up today, I want to be clear on our accountability, and I want to see what you're saying yes to. So it's not gray. It's important to me that accountability is clear. 4 postings a week, and these are specifically about the studio.
Yes.
Correct. And you and what like you as a coach and right? And 5 is gravy, amazing, awesome. You went above and beyond if you do a 5th. One of them is probably one of them at least is some kind of get to know you. They're probably all going to end up being get to know you, but freedom to have one that literally is just no call to action. We said that they're going to be rated on the scale of 1 to 4 for you. That scale's not, you can make that scale public, but I think that's mostly for you to have permission. This is a 4. I'm a mess. I'm going to just go for it. I'm putting the camera on and we'll see what happens, right? I just said it. And I would just encourage you, Gianna, the moment someone leaves your studio or leaves your online studio, that is the time you flip on that camera. My client just left. Here's what happened that I loved. Here's what the transformation that I saw her go through. And if it helps you to protect their identity, you could like change the pronouns so that they're not like you're not going to use their name or whatever, like just so that you can really make them feel safe, right? Because it's not about, you're not going to talk about their life story or use their name. It's about the transformation you got to see or what they arrived at while you were together, right? I would encourage that to be a place.
Absolutely.
That's not part of the accountability though. 4 spots, 1 that's about you. And then you're using the ranking system. And then do you want that 2-hour thing? Is that necessary or cumbersome?
I think I'll probably end up spending 2 hours, whether or not I make it a rule.
Great. That's what I thought too. I feel like it's like
nice,
good idea. Yeah. Like it's like in the world of the container, but we don't need to talk about it that much. Great. Okay. So how can I hold you accountable? How can I hold you accountable for the 4? So we want to create this habit. Let's just decide that this habit might change. It might stick for forever, but for now I'm doing 4 posts a week. When do you want to check in on this habit's? Here's what I want to say. You're not allowed to check in on the effectiveness of this habit until, what's the date you want to say? Today is what? January 4th.
The effectiveness as in that I'm doing
how it feels,
every single
how
week, or how it feels.
It's a combo. It can be how it feels and what are you seeing in your business. We're not, what I want to call, this is really important. You're not looking back to see how this is working until whatever date we decide right now. Because during the time period, it's about establishing this freaking habit. I just want to establish that habit. So if 1 week you got 3, cool. There's no beating yourself up for that week. Cool, I got 3 that week. Maybe I'll do 5 this week to like make up for it because my goal here is to get the 4 out. My goal is to get the 4 out, end of goal. End of goal, right? So when would you like to take a moment to look back on it, to just have like, okay, now let's look back and see how this went. To me, this wants to, I can give you the vote, my vote, and you can tell me what you think.
April.
Yeah.
I'm like counting the months on my hand. April, May? Is that too much time?
Here's what I think.
You're like, yeah, it is.
I'm like, that's a long time. Here's why. I love that you're that ambitious about how much time to do it. I think the business side of you, where I think I can give you some like advice-y kind of coaching is,
Please.
I think it's going to be worth it to you as a business person to take a look back a little bit sooner because the tweaks that you might make to this habit may be very tiny for it to have more payoff. So what I would say is, what if you said, let's say 6 weeks-ish. So at the end of February, let's say February 28th, is when I'm going to kind of create my report of how did this go? I'm going to start with me personally. What does it feel like to have posted? If you post every single week for 6 weeks, that's a little more than 6 weeks, but you post 4 times for 6 weeks, that's 24 posts that are out in the world. Look at that face. I love the yikes, right? Good. That's exactly the vibe we want when we're creating accountability, right? What did it feel like to do that? What worked and what didn't, just on the personal level? 4 was actually really harder. It turned out that the 5 was actually easier than I thought. Like, I found that these ones were always easy for me. The number 3s were always the easiest. Or like, what are the answers around this, right? You might decide that 4 is too much of a scale. You might want a 1, 2, and a 3, like totally put together, a little messy or fully messy. It might be a 1, 2, 3 kind of scale for you. So that could also be right. The 3s were the easiest, or I kind of like to hybrid, just like you're going to just report on yourself. And then the secondary report is, okay, business-wise, what did it generate? How many clients did I see over the past 28 weeks? 6 weeks-ish, right? You know, like, and like, also maybe I want to check, like, how many comments did I get just to notice? Oh, posts that were where I was really put together got less engagement than posts that were messy. Wouldn't that be some cool learning? Or like,
That's
oh my
interesting.
gosh, my 3 posts where I was the messiest were the ones that were the viewed most often. And there's a lot of things that could go into that in terms of algorithm and but like, it'd be cool. Like, what's the trend?
Totally.
We can't accept it as a verifiable data, but we could say, what's the trend? So when it comes to social media understanding and how you're showing up, this is where we get to merge those 2 pieces. Does that make sense?
I love that.
Great.
This is
great.
Very good.
Great. So let's you and I decide that February 28th, you're going to share with me like a report of some kind. So what I'd love to do to create some even more fierce accountability around this is, what are the questions that I want to ask in this report? So that's an assignment that I'd love to give you for a week. So like next Wednesday, why don't you send me an email that just says, here's the questions I'll ask on the 28th. I ain't asking any of those questions now. Did I get it done? The question now is, did I get it done? Does that make sense? Great. I want to be super respectful of your time and leave you kind of with this. So one of the things that I believe wholeheartedly, and I believe this as a client and as a coach, is coaching happens between the coachings. So we've stirred the pot. Things have stirred up. It's on the stove right now. It's simmering. And rather than me tying this in a bow and making it all easy, it's more important that I leave the top off and things are stirring. So I want to leave you in a place where new ideas come to you. So for the next couple of weeks, allow yourself to see things differently. Allow yourself to imagine differently. If the accountability around this needs to change, let me know. But every Wednesday, I'm going to expect to hear from you that says, I did my 4 posts. Do you want to do that in an email, in a DM? What's the way you want to tell me?
I could do.
You could also tag me on every single post.
That's true. I'll do that in a DM because I should already be on Instagram. So
there you go.
Doing my posts.
There you go. Perfect. Right? And just letting me know it's getting done. And one of the things I always say about accountability, it's a present tense of what did I get done and a forecasting of what's next. So it can look like, so let's say you're sending me every Wednesday. I got 3 done this week. I know I can get 4 done next week. Or I'm only going to be able to get 3 done next week because I've looked at my calendar. Or I'm going to try to do 5. Like, you take a moment to take stock and like, I'm going away for a wedding. My mom's coming to town. Like, there's no, like, take a moment to look at your calendar and forecast your accountability for the following week instead of feeling like you're coming up short when it would have been impossible anyway. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Great. So I want to leave you with this. So great. So wait, I got a yes from you. Did I get a yes from you? We're doing this accountability?
Yes. You got a yes.
Okay.
You got a yes.
And then I want to leave you with this. So I want to acknowledge we didn't really get super deep into how this is connecting to your acting career. And I want to make sure that you and I know that that's a conversation we still need to have inside of this container. What I will say is this habit, while your acting career continues to happen, is going to start to shift this relationship. So just be open to that conversation has started and the conversation's answers might come through this behavior. Through your habit and through your willing to be messy and be seen in this way, you might start to get some of your answers. So I just want to be open to that, knowing we should probably dig in a little deeper in their next scene. But for now, let's leave this starting in this place. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Great.
Absolutely.
Gianna, any questions for me before I send you off into the wild blue Instagram yonder?
Oh boy. You do use Canva? Is that what you use for your post, Brian?
So yeah, I'll tell you a couple things. Remember, scale of 1 to 3, is Canva 1, 2, or 3 for you?
Canva's super easy for
For
me,
you.
I would
Okay, great,
say.
great. So if you're allowing yourself to be messy in Canva, then it still gets to be in a 1, 2, 3 rank. For me, I'd have to be a 1 for a Canva because I'm like, have to make it look exactly perfect and beautiful and makes me a
Okay.
little cuckoo, right? Right. So what I will say for you is, you can totally use Canva. I also want to encourage you to think about the way your grid, if you want to get a little social media-y for a second,
Mm,
the way your grid will eventually look, right? So I have a real resistance to grids where it's all super curated. For me, that's a Brian Bataka taste. So I
hmm
like picture of my dog, but there's kind of a cool, interesting caption about whatever. The caption still is talking the language that I speak to my clients, but it's a picture of my dog, right? Or I love
hmm
to do those things where I take over Kate Blanchett's face and it's my face, right? And so like I like to do that, and so that I'm mixing up curated images with the thing. So allow yourself during this 8 weeks to find what you like, right? And remember, for you,
Awesome.
what you
I
like
love it.
is what am I going to feel good about putting out there? And I'm allowing myself to be a little bit messy. So right now is discovery zone. So it might look like your first 3 weeks look like one thing, the next look like no one cares. They've moved on to your next post. And so have you.
Okay.
This is your time. You're going to, by the end, that might be one of the questions you want to ask. What does my grid have a shape? What is the shape of my grid? I'm sorry, Rich, what is the shape that I've settled
Mm,
on? What did I like? So maybe that's a question. Maybe you're only allowed to
okay.
just be on the adventure of that for right now, not allowed to settle. Cool?
I love it. I'm excited. I'm
Great.
I'm very nervous, but I'm excited. So
That's exactly where I want to leave you. Okay. Thank you so much, Gianna, today. We will link to your Instagram. Tell everybody what it is because they might be listening and already being like, I got to head over there now.
it is at giannarapp.com. GIANNA, last name RAPP. Very easy.
Got it. And is that the same as your Instagram?
That is my Instagram, my website.
Great.
Everything is, if you
Great.
just look up my name, it'll all come
Great.
up.
Great. And we will put that right in the show notes so y'all can start following along on your accountability journey. All right.
Yay! Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Brian. This was
Thank you.
so helpful.
Great. Thanks for making the time for me today. I really loved being with you in this way. And thanks for bringing the true
Of course.
story here. Sometimes in a coaching, like you reached out to me and you said, like, what I need to prepare. And we can want to bring a put together story. And so it's a little meta to talk about this, but your willingness to bring kind of the mess or the uncertainty is the better place to start a coaching from. Because then we get to get
Mm.
under the hood. And so I just appreciate you showing up in that way. It's a joy to coach you is a better way to say that.
Ah, thank you,
Okay.
Brian. Well, I love being coached by you. So
Great. Great. Thank you so much, John. And we will see you very soon. All right. Tons of love going your way.